Well, good morning and welcome to the Olympian Table, where we discuss all things real estate and investments and how you can start your business and live your dreams and get to your fortune. So welcome to the Olympian Table this morning, and we've got James Lee from the Lee Group Loans.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. Are you living the dream, James?
I live the dream every morning I'm awake.
I know you definitely motivate me some mornings.
Absolutely.
You give me that good size 10 where it really belongs. And this morning we've got the one and only Houston buy or sell. And
Luis Medina, your Texas Realtor. If you're looking to sell or buy, I'm your guy.
there
There he is.
There he is. He's in the corner of the house today. How you feeling?
Good. You know, just always ready. It's 10 a.m. and we're ready to rock and roll and, hopefully get some deals on the way. Just got my clients into a contract in Humble, and so pretty excited about that. You know, it's a tough market, really tough market for buyers, but, thankfully we're not in Austin and was able to get them into a nice house.
Oh, Austin's
That's a mouthful.
Yes.
Austin is tough.
Yep.
It is.
And Houston's bad enough, isn't it, James?
It is, man. I couldn't imagine being in Austin having to deal with that.
Well, there's a story going around in Austin that one house got 96 offers in probably in a day or two. So,
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Imagine
we had one in the Galleria in Houston with 120 offers.
wow.
And the problem with that is you've got 119 buyers that want to get into a house and can't get into a house. So that's a shame, really. So how's your week gone?
Good. I'm telling you, it's great. I just got my clients into a house, into a contract, so I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, in this tough market, getting your buyers in is a pretty good. I don't know how to say it. It's great. It's awesome to be able to do that.
It's a good feeling. It's a good
It's
feeling. How
a
about
really
you?
great
How about
feeling.
you, James? How's your week gone?
Week's going great. I was just trying to stay on top of the things, some of the changes. I had some comments yesterday from Secretary Janet yelling about interest rates going up. Then she came right back and said they're going down. It's just, all over the place. Just trying to stay on top of things so that when, you guys are out in the field with your buyers, that they're not affected. Because, it's important trying to stay abreast of that stuff. So.
And how about this inflation thing? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, inflation, deflation. Yeah, life's going to go on. Quite frankly, I mean, if you focus on it too much, it could become something that kind of consumes your brain. But I think right now we really can't. We can't afford to do it. So I think it'll kind of stay down. As artificial as it might be for now, I think we'll be okay for a little bit. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, I really feel them first-time home buyers. I just wish there was more first-time home buyers that we could, get into it. So the idea is that they're on the ladder and they're going. And when you get multiple offers, I just think, like I said, 119 buyers that perhaps not on that housing ladder for the first time. So, Lewis, let's get down to it. Okay, let's get down. So, tell us, why did you pick real estate? I mean, it's competitive. There's a lot out there. Why didn't you, just decide to become an...
And don't say what everybody says. I like looking at houses.
Oh, that drives me nuts. It's like, I like looking at red doors and granite
really?
countertops.
Come on.
No, actually, it wasn't because I like looking at houses. To me, I've lived in the city, Houston since I was 6 years old, and driven anywhere from, I grew up in the Heights, and so I'm used to seeing beautiful houses, but that's not the reason I got into real estate. I was a banker. I was in banking for about 11 years and just got tired of all the politics. I was a manager, got the branch running smoothly, incredibly well. Even the district managers would say, wow, you're doing a really good job. You have the branch is happy. People, the employees are happy. You're meeting all your sales goals. And so I would tell them, I was like, hey, well, I want to move to a bigger branch. But that's when all the politics would start come at play. I have managers that wouldn't let you move. They would do things behind the scenes to keep you there.
Okay.
And it was just hard. It was just a horrible experience. And so my mentor, who I've known since I was 12 years old, he was a director of real estate for Bank of America. He's always told me, get into real estate. And I never listened to him. I didn't have managers that I never really thought too much about it. But when all this happened with the bank, I finally said, okay, enough's enough. And I started looking at my options. And to me, real estate just kind of went along with what I was already doing at the bank, because I was doing a lot of loans and looking at home values and seeing how the values of homes, fluctuated, during 2008 and 2015 and things like that. You could see how the market fluctuates. And so it just kind of was interesting. It just seems like the right thing to do.
Right.
Well, sort of interesting story, really. I mean, corporate America does what it does to everybody, which is, shafts them, and I had the same experience with corporate America.
With the bank, I really put the bank's best interest at heart in everything I did. That was the first thing I always thought about. What's the best thing for the bank when I was at the bank? So worked really long hours, and I sacrificed a lot for that bank. And then for them to treat me like that, it was really horrible experience. So that's why I decided, let me be a realtor. Put my I guess my destiny in my own hands. Just go out there and be a great realtor.
And it took you a bit of time to get going. I remember when you came in as a new agent, and nothing gives me more pleasure as a real estate coach to, see somebody develop and see them numbers at the end of the year and see them increasing. And, it sort of took you a bit of time to get going. Was you still at the bank?
Well, yes, I was actually working part-time, and during the first 2 years I was a realtor, I was still working at the bank. So most of my stuff I was doing part-time. My day started when I got off the bank or when I called in sick.
No wonder I used to see you at 9 o'clock at night in the office thinking, I don't see him in the daytime. I didn't realize that, to be perfectly honest.
Right. But it's doable when you're focused and you pay attention to details. You can be a part-time agent and be successful. I mean, most of my listings, I got them during when I was a part-time agent. I had 10 listings, sometime during that. Of course, none of them were lots because I just hit the lot mother load. But you focus, you'll get it.
That's key. Focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. As an Olympian, that's the one thing that I found out by being an Olympian. It's not a case of how much talent you got. It's a case of how much desire, passion, and focus.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that will always overcome pure talent. And
I can remember meeting when you first started, and you're telling me about the bank stuff, because you were at your bank and I had come from a bank.
Right, yeah.
And just you getting into it and what you wanted to do. And man, when you said that you kind of made those sacrifices, it was like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's almost kind of one of those things to see if he's going to make it.
Right.
And here we are years later. You're still winning, right?
During the first 2 years, I think most agents, they don't make it. That's
right.
That's when you find out, if they're going to make it or not. And a lot of times, it's just not taking action. I know a lot of realtors. I can't say they're realtors because they got their license and everything, but they didn't practice any. They didn't go out and do the business,
right? Because
they were so busy either doing trying to study things or learn things or look at strategies, but they never implemented anything. They never went out there and tried to get the business. Too busy studying.
Well, I've got a bit of a confession to make. That's how I got into real estate. I bought famous program at the time when I came in as an immigrant back in 1995. It was called the Carlton Sheets No Money Down, Buy a Property.
Oh yeah.
Paid about $5,000 for a mentorship, and I put it on a shelf and looked at it on the shelf thinking it was going to buy me a house.
You know what? I actually bought that same program probably back in...
It didn't even apply to Texas. The rules were completely different.
I'll say somewhere in the early 2000s I bought that program too. And I actually went through the program. It was a DVD set, and me and my friend, we split the cost and looked at the program. And
would you like to split the cost of it now with mine? Because I've still got mine somewhere in storage.
It wasn't worth it, because it tells you, buy houses, no money down, and this, that, and the other, right? And so you start going through the DVD set, and never does it explain how to actually do it.
With the money down.
You still got to work it out.
Use other people's credit, this, that, and the other. But it's like, but how? Show me. Break it down. No, he never breaks it down.
Well, those programs are meant for you to buy the program. It's not for you.
They're in the education business.
Yeah, they're not really for you to get into the real estate market and buy with no money down.
Right.
Otherwise, that's what they would lead with. They say, hey, well, this is how you do it. Here's who you contact. So Yeah,
They're in the
guys,
education business, not the real estate business.
We got
Exactly.
two suckers
And so-
sitting here at the table, huh?
That's right.
Come on, you know you bought one too.
I didn't. I did go to a seminar. I will admit that.
Hey,
They
Lewis,
almost had you. They almost
Louis,
had
don't
you.
worry. We'll find something to pick on him later on. We're the two suckers at this point. We'll pick on him about something. Don't worry about that. That's not a problem. At all.
But that's not the only program that's out there right now. There's tons
Oh,
and
yeah,
tons
there
of
are.
programs
There are.
where people say, come to my seminar, learn how to buy houses, zero down, this, that, and the other. And so you get a lot of people coming in and take a one-day class, and all of a sudden they're real estate investors. It's like,
Yeah,
you're living
I
in
had
your
somebody the
house.
other day turn around and said, I've done an online class and they're based in Arizona. And, can you send me a Texas Trek contract and then can you tell me how to fill it in? I'm like, really? The answer to that is no, because you've got to be a licensed real estate agent to be able to fill a form in. So, you know what? I'm not going to do that.
And I've seen that a lot of their, a lot of things that they're teaching these people is look for a listing that needs work, that needs needs some TLC. Call that realtor and offer them a cash deal, and then the realtor will see that he's getting double sides of the sale, and they'll jump through hoops to get you into that contract. It's like, nope. That's not how it works,
No, it's not.
Man,
no,
that is not.
That way, doing it that way, the client's not coming first.
Exactly.
You as a realtor are not offering value. Are there agents out there that may do that? Maybe, but the truth of the matter is the good agents don't do that. And
I actually had that happen on a listing that I had in North Houston. It was a small house, so it was in I think it was 110,000 that we had it listed for, and attracting a lot of investors because it was that type of house that just attracts a lot of investors. And so I had them all come out in one day. One of the ladies got mad at me. She goes, are there so many people here to look at this house? When I set an appointment to look at a house, I'm usually here by myself. I was like, well, I want everybody to see how much interest there's in the house so I don't get any low ball offers. She proceeds, they all look at the house. She comes back and tells me, hey, I'm going to give you a full list price. I don't have a realtor, so you can do both sides and you get the full commission. You get the full, whatever you're charging your client. I was like, oh, thank you. That sounds like a good deal. But if someone comes with a better offer, I'm going to tell my client to take that other offer. And I said that in front of all these investors, and they all looked at me like I was crazy.
Crazy, right.
They looked at me
crazy.
like they couldn't believe it. It's like, but
not
that's
for that.
my job. It's like I have to represent my client's
Your
best
client.
interest.
Absolutely.
Not me. I don't care how much I make on that deal. It was my clients,
Good for you.
No, that's good for you. That's one thing. It's called integrity.
Absolutely.
You should be commended to that, but you're still crazy. You're still crazy, but nothing to do with real estate. But I mean,
there was
outside of the table, you're crazy. But.
You mentioned integrity. That's one of the things that I always say. I didn't compromise my integrity while I was at the bank, and I surely am not going to compromise my integrity here outside. When I was at the bank, we always had sales contests. And, back then when we used to do loans, we just took people's words. They made $100,000. Like, great, you got great credit. You make $100,000. That's what we'll put in there. We didn't check income back in those days, really. But a lot of my clients that came into the bank, they would have great credit, but they didn't have enough income to get that loan. I actually had a manager come and tell me, is like, hey, Luis, your client has great interest. Great credit score. Why don't you put on there that they have a better income? That way you can close more loans. Can you believe that coming from a bank manager?
Wow.
I can believe it.
Telling me to,
Well, one of the
lie.
banks, we're not going to mention no names, but one of the banks got sued for that exactly same thing.
Yeah.
They was adding accounts and they wasn't proper accounts. And for that to be happening in any financial industry, that obviously should happen.
Well, it happened. I was there. I had, other bankers tell me it's like when people walk into the door, all they saw was dollar bills.
Right.
So I just couldn't stand that. It's just
That's unfortunate.
And I came out here and I promised myself, I don't compromise my integrity. I do everything the right way, and I do everything for my clients.
Good for you. Good for you.
So tell me about your business. Do you represent more buyers and sellers, or you do both? I mean, give us a percentage of how many buyers to sellers. What type of business do you like?
Well, to tell you the truth, I started this business representing sellers. I came into this industry knowing that I was going to be a listing agent, a top listing agent. And I remember really clearly that when we were at the 610 office, I printed out a bunch of listing documents, listing agreements, and you told me, it's like, hey, you're not going to need that many. So, but I did. I ended up getting a lot of listings I wasn't really interested in buyers, plus I was doing part-time, so it would have been really hard to go out there and show properties when I was, working at the bank.
But hold on. But was it a case of you don't? It sounds to me like it wasn't a case of you don't want to represent buyers. You didn't feel that the way you approach your business that you could give them good value. So you was just being honest by saying, you know what, you're better off using another agent because it's going to take more time if you're working at the bank. I mean, that's one of the problems with a lot of hobby agents. Mm-hmm. They just don't. And at the time, you was a hobby agent because you was a part-time agent. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to say that you got from that hobby agent point and you moved to a full-time producing agent. But
well, not exactly hobby agent because I really took it seriously.
That's the difference, yeah.
That's the difference.
That's a good difference, yeah.
Because some agents look at it as a side gig, and they're the people that's really not.
Right. Well, it wasn't a matter of that. I thought that someone else could do a better job as far as getting them into a house. It was really the fact that I just when I started looking into real estate, I started learning that listings. That everybody goes after listings. They say if you want to be in the business long term, you have to get listings. And that was my focus, is to get sellers. I've always been into selling. I used to go knock on doors when I was a little kid and cut grass, and used to go out and import stuff from China and sell it on eBay. So I was always selling something. I was used to sell at Sears, so I have a strong sales background. So to me, I didn't realize until later on that part of representing buyers is selling. You're actually trying to get the buyers into a house. So you sell that buyer. You sell it like, hey, this is why you should accept my buyer's contract, right? But in the beginning, yes, I was all about listings. And, when I became that listing agent, and after so many experiences of being a listing agent, I quickly realized that I could probably do a much better job at helping a buyer than most other agents. Because as a listing agent, I went out looking for houses. I went out knocking on doors for sale by owners, And if I can convince a for sale by owner, someone who's selling their house, and the main reason they're selling the house is so they can save some money. If I can get them to convince them to, hey, hire me to sell their house and pay me, imagine how much better I would be at representing a buyer than any other agent that doesn't have that experience.
Yeah,
and that's how I was able to get a buyer into this market, into a house in this market yesterday.
And I think with the current market, that's part of the problem, though. It's a case of putting forward to the listing agent, you've got a strong buyer that will be able to follow it through, close the deal, and get it done. Because there's nothing as frustrating as being a listing agent, and then you get 7 days before closing. And that's what I've always liked about James, in his loans. If he says that this guy can close the house, then he'll get it done. And there's never been one occasion when he hasn't. Why? Because there was something. We had an offer the other day where one of the agents came to me and said that there was a loan officer. I told them to use James. Mm-hmm. Our agent didn't use James because it's the buyer's choice. So they decided to use somebody. And 7 days before closing, they got back and they said the buyer didn't even have the funds to close.
Right.
And now they're fighting over the earnest money. Well, for everybody's point, why even go through that?
James, isn't that one of the first things that the loan officer is supposed to check for?
Absolutely, man. Income, credit, assets. Those are the three things you look at. Now, there's many times where people have to save money. It might be a few paychecks or they get it from a gift from, but you already have that plan set to say, hey, this is where this money is going to come from. A sale of another property, anything along those lines. But assets doesn't need to be the issue at the end of the day. That needs to have already been verified, or at least a plan of where that money is going to come from at closing. Otherwise, why do we get started in the first place?
Exactly.
But sometimes people do it though. There's many times where agents will write the contracts, on what I call a hope and a prayer that these people will come up with this money, and that's not it's not a good position to be in, and it's not good service for the buyer.
Exactly. It's not a good strategy because you are risking that they're going to lose that earnest money.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And to me, representing a buyer is not only to get them into a home, at a great price and negotiate strongly for them, but also to minimize that risk of losing that earnest money, with doing everything I can to make sure that, hey, if I have to go there and pick up the checks and deliver them to the title company to make sure that they're there on time, that's what I'm going to do. I'll get that done. Whether I send out a courier or I go or something, because I've had experience as a listing agent where the money doesn't get there. And so now these buyers are out of contract. I mean, they're out of option, so they can't cancel anymore. So they're in a weak position of trying to negotiate any repairs. It's like, no, because you can't cancel, so why would we repair anything?
Well, on one of my first deals, I learnt the hard way. There's a loan officer called me up out the blue and says, send me your deals. Oh, what did I do? I sent him a deal 7 days before closing. The client called me up crying because the loan officer hadn't even submitted documentation that the buyer had sent, and all the documentation to the underwriting department, and now she couldn't buy it, and now her, so I learned the hard way. So that's how you came on board, James. As recommendation, he's still there after 12 years.
I appreciate it.
Well, just like there's, not really good experienced realtors or agents out there, there's really also not really good experienced loan officers out there. And even some major banks are not really the best places to get a loan. I've had a client, the VA, he was a VA buyer, and he went to one of these military banks, and they were doing great at first. They were very responsive, and unfortunately, there was one person in charge of his loan, then someone else, and finally they switched it to somebody else and says, hey, I'm going to be in charge of this loan, but so-and-so is going to take the point on this. So now we got like 5 people involved in this guy's loan, and halfway through the process, they stopped responding. And we need to know, is like, hey, when is that appraisal coming in? Because we're close to the deadline. And they just stopped answering anything.
Wow. My
My clients, in the middle of that transaction, they had to go and find themselves another lender, and it could have been bad. It took me a lot to convince the listing agent to not cancel our deal. I was like, hey, come on, this is the military.
Well, when you got multiple offers, obviously you can understand why.
Right. But I did my best, and I kept them in the deal, and we ended up closing that deal. But yes, military banks are not always the best places to get loans. They perpetuate this lie that hey, if you close with us, we're gonna save you some money, and we're gonna give you a bonus at the end of the transaction. But what they're actually doing is that they're saying, in order for you to get this bonus, you have to hire one of our realtors in this program. And so the realtors in those programs, they actually pay a monthly fee to that bank. And on top of that, the bank charges them a percentage after they close. So the money they're actually giving to you, saying there's a bonus that the bank is giving you, is actually coming from the realtor. So that agent, that realtor who's pretty much they're working for the bank, because if the bank is doing something wrong, that realtor is not free to recommend another lender for you. So just got to be careful with that,
I'd be interested to see what Texas Real Estate Commission say about that.
Well,
because to me that sounds like a totally unethical process.
Oh yeah, but
Texas Real Estate Commission,
right, because they're representing the bank's best interest, not their clients. But unfortunately, a lot of them will say, no, I am representing the client's best interest, but they're not.
Yeah, well, I've got a question for James, and me and
Okay.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, nice.
okay,
If they ask any questions or
Yeah, so
something.
you
okay.
have 3 viewers right now.
Okay,
Okay,
if anybody's on the live podcast and you got a question and want to bring something up, you're more than welcome to even just text us and say hi. We'd like to see who's on, and also what we'd like to do is, if you got any questions out there, just more than welcome, to put it in the chat. But I've got a question for James. We've had this discussion before. James, just explain to people what seasoned funds is, because a lot of buyers feel that, they need a down payment, and so they borrow money from a family member as a down payment. Then all of a sudden, it's like, you can't use that. Do you want to explain just what seasoned funds are?
Well, season funds, essentially is just money that has been sitting in the bank for a certain amount of times. That window for us is 60 days. That basically means if you have funds, if you found it in the parking lot, or you went to the casino.
Yeah, what's some of them funds in the parking lot? I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, you went to the casino and gambled, whatever. Who knows? And you put it in your bank account. If it's there for 60 days, it's considered seasoned funds. So we're not going to go back any further than that to ask, hey, where did this large deposit come from? Now, some programs, depending on what you do, might ask for a third month, depending on if it's a specific program. But typically, if it's anywhere from 60 to 90 days, those are considered your funds, no matter where they came from. They had to start doing that because there was a time where it was kind of like the Wild Wild West, much to the point to where you were saying that, if your credit was good enough and, we'll put whatever for your income, we'll just go ahead and get the loan for you. Well, much was the same when it came to mortgage. If you basically had good credit and you had the income, they even encouraged us to allow, customers to go and get loans for their down payment. Just go downstairs to the lobby and apply for blah, blah, blah. And, we'll use that for your funds. And if that money was sitting in your account, nobody really asked you anything about it. So now money has to be seasoned. The 60-day window is kind of the sweet spot. It has to be seasoned because they want to make sure that when we're doing these loans, that you not only show the ability to repay, but that you have the money that's going to be available for your down payment. And it's not from some source where you got to make a payment that we didn't know about. Or some Bruno is going to come and break your knees for not paying him back. Then, it might get worse than breaking your knees. They might kill you. Now we got a mortgage that doesn't get paid and got to foreclose on. So nevertheless, it's protection just to make sure that you can show you have that money.
Okay. And then the other thing I want you to explain, because you didn't mention it earlier on, and I just want you to explain it to the viewers that's on the podcast, is basically, can you just explain debt to income ratio? That's changed a little bit recently, hasn't it?
Well, the debt to income ratio is still the same. Those guidelines are, but it has been defined. A qualified mortgage as being 43% being the maximum debt to income ratio. And what that means is just all of your debts, your household bills, not like your water bill or your light bill or anything like that, but what considers like your rent and your credit cards and so on and so forth, against your gross monthly income, including the new mortgage payment that you'd be applying for. So the idea is that we can keep that at a range that will be suitable for you to be able to still live and do what you have to do and also make your mortgage payment. Right.
And also, it was Lewis mentioned this, and I think a lot of first-time home buyers specifically get wrapped up in the interest rate, and they really don't, they don't fully understand about, the setup fees that some of these loan officers charge set up, and they get so wrapped up in the interest.
All the time. I mean, who doesn't want a deal, right? You want that $1.99 feel. Like, oh yeah, I got it cheaper. But sometimes the charge, I could give you a loan for, with an interest rate of 2.5%, and you'd be happy with it. But if I charge you $10,000 for that loan, I could give you 3%, and it'd be a better deal for you. Because the difference in what it's going to be, they don't understand the overall cost on what it is. When you're looking and you're shopping around, people only look at what the interest rate's going to be, and they shouldn't really be looking at the annual percentage rate, which really truly gives a cost of the loan. So it's good to be working with someone that you trust, get an agent you trust. Typically, they'll have a partner that they trust. Go with that person, man. It's just kind of one of those things where, it's 6 degrees of separation. If it's somebody just trust your professional.
James, you were speaking earlier about the Wild Wild West, back in the days. And I actually remember that back in 2006, 2007, you used to be able to get a home loan with like 580 credit score.
Oh yeah, and a pulse.
You just have to get the second
and
mortgage,
not just a home loan. I mean, because you can still get a home loan now with that, but it was 100% financing.
Right.
Even.
Yeah. Back in those days. Yeah, and it was crazy, and that's what led to all the madness in 2008.
Yeah, I was reading an article the other day, and they was talking about foreclosure rates, and they was saying in some places in Texas, it's like there's one foreclosure in 7,000 homes. You know, in the 2000s, it was a case of there was one foreclosure in every 10 homes.
It got bad.
And then everybody's saying, "Oh, the market's going to crash," and I just can't see that happening. And
They've been saying that for those that have been in real estate.
There's way too many safeguards set up now to help to kind of prevent that. The equity that's put in. I mean, you got to put money down. I mean, you don't. Rarely do you see a lot of 100% financing loans. I mean, you of course got your VA product, and then there's some credit unions that will still offer, those what they call portfolio products that they keep in house, where there's really no one has any skin in the game. But I think that's what kind of got people in trouble. There was nothing to lose. You're getting in with 100% financing. You got your credit closing costs paid for. So if it didn't work out, so be it. You just walk away, go live back with mom and dad.
Which is what happened.
But even with a zero down loan, there are still fees.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember I had a client who was a teacher she wanted to buy in South Houston. She got pre-approved with a credit union. And unfortunately, her credit union, her lender, recommended her a real estate agent that was in Katy. He's trying to buy in South Houston.
Oh, wow.
Why is he recommending a Katy agent? I mean, that's over an hour away. And on top of that, he was probably a part-time agent because they were having trouble with him showing her houses. Submitted 3 offers, and none of them got accepted. I met her parents at one of the houses that I was selling in South Houston. They sent her, they asked for my help. I said, sure, have her come by. I'll help her. I'll be here tomorrow. Met her, went and looked at, started talking to her, realized that she was doing zero down loan. And I realized, this is probably the problem why her offer hasn't been accepted. People see zero down on that TREC contract. They're like, this doesn't look right.
Right.
So we finally found a house that she liked, and I submitted an offer, and I submitted a letter saying, hey, this is a serious offer. Don't be alarmed at the zero down loan. But this is a teacher. She's using this program. She's in a low to moderate income school. Please help her get into this house. And sad story, and bam, her offer got accepted. So
okay.
I always say there's a difference between submitting an offer and getting that offer accepted.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot more work than just sending in the offer. And most important of all, the offer has to be written on a contract. You'd be surprised at how many times I get offers that are not written on that contract.
On a napkin or something?
I just ignore them.
We had one of our agents. They sent out a release of earnest money, releasing it to our client. This happened about 3 weeks ago. And basically, we sent the release of earnest money, releasing the earnest money to our client. The other agent, who was a hobby agent, signed it, got a client to sign the documentation, send it back to us, and said, then she called up our agent and says, well, when do we get the earnest money back? So I don't know if she was a new agent or whatever. And then we said, we released the earnest money back to our client. Your client's not getting the money back. She didn't even get her client to read it, and as an agent, she didn't even read the earnest money.
I was the listing agent on that one.
It was you that told me about that.
Yes, she was an experienced agent. I mean, she was.
Didn't sound very experienced to me.
Right on that time, but she had some deals done, and I didn't really like the way she approached when she made the offer. I really didn't like it, and I told her, hey, we're not going to do all that you're asking for because, they submitted an offer on a listing that we had, and instead of getting an inspector to go over there and look at the house, she sent in 2 companies to look at the house, and both of the companies said there was something wrong with the house. And I said, hey, these aren't inspectors. How am I supposed to trust these companies? I mean, you probably have a cousin or a friend or somebody that works there and said, hey, we need to get the price on this house down, write up a report. And it's like, no, that doesn't work for me. I need to represent my seller's best interest at that point. So I told her, no, we're not doing that. And she actually sent me the release. She actually sent me the amendment to get all those repairs done after the option period was over. She told me at the beginning, it was like, hey, I do this part-time to help friends and family. Well, she got her buyer to sign this form after I sent her the release of earnest money. I says, no, your buyer is not entitled to the earnest money. That earnest money now belongs to my seller. She signed that form. She actually sent that form back to me and said, hey, you need to sign it. And it's like, fine, I signed it and I sent it back to her. And she signed it. Worst of all, she had her client sign it. Later on, she's
not
calling
representing
me.
a client.
Later on, she's calling me, asking me, where's that earnest money? And it's like, you signed the form.
You released it, man.
Are you telling me that you did not read the form? Worst of all, you had your client sign the form without reading it, without explaining to him what this form was about? That's horrible representation.
Absolutely.
And so... I feel bad for her client.
She needs to pay her client the earnest money. That's what she needs to do. Do the right thing. You make the mistake.
Yeah, you got to eat that one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel bad for that client, but unfortunately, I had to represent my seller's best interest. I need to put those pity feelings aside and think of my client. My client needed that money because we're in a multiple offer situation, and we went with her. We lost out on a couple others. We had to stay on the market a little bit longer to get that another deal going.
So, Louis, tell us, obviously, we've led into what I'm going to ask you next, which I think is the perfect time to lead into it. So, one of the things we teach at Olympian is basically the number one thing you should do is obviously represent your client. Your client comes before your personal interests. So we've said that. The second thing is, as an agent, what do you think you offer your clients as value? Because if you don't offer value, I always say all the time, a lot of people say that 3% is a given. Mm-hmm. I think some agents are worth 10% because we had another deal the other day where one of our agents and a multiple offer situation saved them nearly $15,000.
Yeah.
So what do you offer your clients as value? What do you perceive? What do you do different? Rather than look at red doors and granite countertops, which you always say, everybody likes properties because it's everybody's dream to own their own house. But what do you feel you offer as value to your clients? Obviously, you read the paperwork, which is a bit of an important part of the...
Absolutely, man. Got to do that.
Well, to tell you the truth, when I get paperwork from another agent, I always think it's a trap. So I read it, double read it, and then I walk away.
Sometimes it is.
And sometimes I'll reread it again. It's like...
Is that because you're trying to trap other people? Is that
that's part of it.
You think that way because you do it yourself, right? You're trying to get over.
Not necessarily.
I have.
It's just poking at you. Just poking at you. Poking the bear a little.
No. Actually, one of Steve's has always taught me to, be fair with everybody. And this agent that lost her client's earnest money.
You treat them with courtesy. I mean, that's being professional. I mean,
right.
That's being professional and courteous. But the truth of the matter is,
you want to win. You really want to win.
Right. I do want to win.
Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't?
If you feel good about representing your client. I call it real estate poker. I even teach it in my classes as real estate poker.
Right, yeah.
When you're negotiating, if you're a good agent, you're negotiating. How many times has an agent said to you, I want $10,000 for a repair, and all they're doing is throwing it at you to see what your response is, and you've turned around and said, well, we've got multiple offers on the property, and then oh, okay, well, get the $10,000. How many times have you done that for your client?
I've done that quite a bit of times, and actually, one of my last deals in Fresno, one of my clients the buyers were asking for $7,000 off the price, and my clients were ready to give it to them, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Hold on, don't be so fast.
Like, what are you talking about? You want to give it to them, and there's like, yeah, but we know the AC is old and this and that, and it's like, look, they went and looked at the house, they saw the AC was old, and they still put in the offer. So they know. So there's no reason why we should, give them that much money. I mean, I would say if you want to give them anything at all, probably give them, 2 or 3, but not. And they're like, oh, okay. And they said, it's like the most we'll do is 3, or something. But they're ready to give their whole money away, and that's happened many times. Another one is on this deal that I had in spring, the appraisal came in low. The buyer's agent wanted to lower the price. I was like, nope, not so fast. It was only $4,000 difference. We were trying to sell it for $208. The appraisal came in at $204, and he wanted to drop the price to $204. And I said, no, we can't do that. I said, because the house down the street sold for $207. This is a much better house. I think the appraisal messed up, and so I could put this house back on the market bluffing, and I'll still get the full price.
Right.
You know, and I was prepared to do that. My seller was like, Luis, I'll take the 204. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I said, let me just try this. I'm not going to put the deal in jeopardy, but let me just try this. And sure enough, they came back that day and said, hey, we'll give you the full 208. I've done that multiple times. And my job is to always try to get on the phone, listen to what the other agent is saying, and see if I can use anything against them. I was selling a house over here about Wood Forest, and the agent called me. She was saying, this is a really big house, the square footage, this, that, and the other, you know, so she was seeing value there. When her client started asking for $5,000 less, I told my client, the seller, send me a text message that you don't accept that you're not giving them anything more. And I showed her that text message. She goes, okay, we'll take it as it is. So, you know, yes, real estate
Because they really
poker,
wanted the house. It is real estate poker.
but I'm not trying to conceal anything. It's just I'm just trying to use everything to my
You're
client's
just trying
advantage.
to win, Lewis. There's
I
nothing
am
wrong
trying
with trying to win.
And you know, I'm not
There's
trying to
nothing wrong
win
with it.
as far as like
You want to feel that you're doing the best for your client.
right. I'm not trying to.
Because-
I'm not trying to win, like trying to be like this mega agent and get 1,000 listings per month or 1,000 sales per month, you know, because it's like, what kind of service will you actually be giving the clients, you know? But I do feel like when I'm under contract, I do want to win that contract. I do want to get the better of that contract for my clients.
Absolutely.
And I do everything I can to do that.
You know who the easiest agents are, though, to ask for discounts, then get them to take the offer and take the bait? The agents to put the money first and not their client first.
Exactly, yeah.
Them are really the agents that I think it's, you know, they're the easiest agents
And there's a lot of them.
to take advantage of.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of them. And, you know, I've had friends that actually went and purchased a house and, you know, the house is falling apart. And if I would have took them to the house, I would tell them, no, let's find you another house. I could tell from the street that this is not a good house.
Right.
You know, but I mean, I helped I helped a gentleman buy a condo nearby, and after we closed and everything, he was doing some work and noticed that there was a leak in the garage. There was a pipe busted, drywall messed up, and bam, it fell down. He got upset. He's calling me upset. I say, okay, you got a warranty, you know, you got a home warranty plan. Just call them. Let's get it fixed. Don't worry about it. And they came out there and says, no, this is an existing condition. We will not cover it. It's like, thanks, home warranty. So I call a listing agent. I say, hey, y'all need to pay for this repair. And it's like, no, we didn't know anything about it. I said, y'all didn't disclose this in the seller's disclosure, and this is an existing repair. We can tell it was repaired. And the seller has owned this property for so long, so they should have known about this. You can't tell me someone repaired it, so he should have known about this. And she said, I'll get back with you. Once I mentioned the seller's disclosure and I told her why and you gave her that, she came back, yeah, you're right. I had it repaired. I was a property manager on that property. And we negotiated a deal. And I got my clients some money even after the sale was completed. So that's how much I'm willing to go for my clients.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Just let me-
Well, we'll do.
When you started, though, didn't you work with a lot of for sale by owners?
Yes, I did. Like I said, I went out knocking on doors, and I got I got a lot of properties. You know, it was challenging market. It was challenging. You know, talking to people who just didn't want to pay for a realtor. You know, and I actually had one engineer where he was selling his parents' house, who passed away unfortunately, but he had a broken down garage and a room back there, but it was, you know, it wasn't complete. And he says, hey, we need to add this to the square footage. Imagine trying to negotiate with him on how much, like, hey, your house is probably worth about this much. Like, no, I got that extra square footage back there. But yes, I did get a lot of for sale by owners. If you can actually pull up Spring Branch, the PDF down there, this is one of the houses that I got. This property had been on the market before, and it had been for sale for $400,000. When I met the seller, she had fired this agent, or this had expired, and she's wanted to sell it for $425. I told her, hey, your house is probably worth more around somewhere between $370 and $380. But if you want to put it for $425, we'll put it for $425. So when I started doing my research on the house, I realized that it was listed before. And if you go down, Jack, you can see the agent's comments right here, right there. It says, you can see the agent remarks that it's sold for lot value only.
What comments?
Oh, wow.
What comments? There's very little comments there.
Yeah, even the public remark says, hey, there's no value here. It's sold for lot value only.
He doesn't believe in the sale of that property at all.
Yeah, send me your lowest offer is pretty much is what it's saying, right?
And also what it's saying, it says showing instructions, no appointment required. Just walk in.
Yeah,
just walk in whenever you feel like it.
The people live there. They can't just walk in.
Was the house in that bad a shape?
No, I mean, that house was actually... It was an older home.
I mean, 1,700 square feet.
Back in those days, it could have still been rented out for probably around $1,500, maybe $1,700, because it was in Spring Branch. It was right there by Wirt Road and Sober. So, and this guy only took 6 pictures. You know, so if you go down on this to the next page. This is my listing. So, well, we started.
This is the same property.
The same property.
Same property.
We started at 425, and of course it sat there for a while, and I did everything I can to get it sold. And then if you go down to further down, you'll see that right here it says, have you considered moving to Spring Branch? Now's your chance. You know, there's more information about the area, you know.
It's more enticing as well. I mean,
Galleria, Memorial City Mall, City Center. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I took about 50-something pictures, 30 pictures. The previous guy only had 6. One of the things I also took of is a picture of the fire station that was about 5 minutes away. And I said, you can live with the peace of mind that the fire station is only, feel safe, And then if you go down, Jack, this is another for sale by owner on the same street. The sellers from that first house recommended me to this couple here. Unfortunately, this couple were foreigners that weren't used to exclusive representation, the way we do things here. And I told them, hey, let me represent you and I'll sell your property. I believe this is a better lot than the one I had before. And the one I sold before, and I think I can sell it for more. And I actually told them, normally I don't tell for sale by owners, anything about value, my opinions on value or anything like that. I just tell them I'll sell it for top price. But I actually told them I could sell it for at least $377 because their lot was bigger, it was in a better location, and the house was in much better condition. They said, no, we don't want to sign an exclusive agreement. This other agent down the street, he's bringing us buyers, and we're just going to take one of his deals. And this is what happens. They sold their property for $339, which is about, $4,000, $40,000 less or something like that. And that's what happens when you don't hire a realtor to represent your best interest. You pretty much, giving your property away or giving your money away.
Well, that's sort of the thing that Open Door are doing, and all of these wholesaling companies. What they're basically doing is, people don't want to pay the commission, and they're going to some of these wholesalers, and basically what they're doing is giving thousands of dollars away. Yeah. Just because they don't want to show the house, but at the end of the day, it's an auction. If you've got 20 people bidding on one house, you're going to get a better price, and you get a better rate of return on your investment.
And that's a huge misconception that all these iBuyers, these internet portals that are offering money for property, that's one of their biggest lies that they give out to people is like, hey, if you work with a real estate agent, you have to show the property, you have to fix your property up, you always have to keep it immaculate and clean, and you have to always show it to people. And that's not the truth. When you meet with a realtor will tell you is like, hey, if you don't want to clean your house, if you don't want to repair it, if you don't want to show it, that's all fine. But here are the consequences that will happen if you decide to take that route. But if that's what you want to do, fine, we'll just sell it that way. You're the boss. The sellers, it's your house. You determine how what steps you want to take. You don't want to take any steps to get them to maximize value. It's okay. We understand that. We can work with that.
Yeah, we had somebody the other day, 82-year-old guy, wants to sell his condo. All he wanted to do was to no showings, just put it online, put it on Facebook, and get me offers. Wouldn't let us put it in the MLS.
Oh, wow.
And nobody could come by to see it.
Nobody could come see it.
Wow.
And then our agent said, look, go ahead and do it. Our agent basically put it in the MLS, done the marketing, the advertising that we do. We had 5 offers within literally 4 days. When the guy's 82 and he's depending on it, on all the money you can get for the property.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, and then we're not even talking about these internet portals. Not only they give them low offers like this one, but on top of that, there's huge transaction fees at the end that they charge. You know?
Yeah, and they won't tell you that in the pitch.
They don't tell you that.
They just tell you,
it's in the small print.
This much. It's in the small print, but they don't realize that it's going to be there.
Yeah, we got a house near the airport. Lady called us up, said, I want to sell my house. I've had another realtor try to sell it. And the other realtor was a real professional guy, even called me up when we got the listing. And very, very professional. And we said to the client, what do you want to sell it for? Well, we want to sell it. She was in the process of getting a house built, a custom home built. She was retiring. I think she worked for one of the, worked at the airport for one of the, the carriers. I think it was United. And she basically said, well, if I get $377 for the house, I'll be happy. So I think we listed at $387. And in the meantime of going from the very previous agent to us, you got an offer from Open Door, and they offered $287.
Yep. Sounds like.
And then they went through the process, and the $287, she had to pay for the inspection, which is normally a buyer's expense. They had to pay for the inspection. Then they found some repairs, and then they got contractors to do the repairs. Then she had to pay for a contractor inspection. Then she had to do all this other stuff, and they took it from the price. By the time she'd finished, I believe that it was in the region of 260, 270. Mm-hmm. They'd taken it down. And it was so disappointing for her. Anyway, we ended up selling it for maybe, I think it was around 370.
Wow.
So, that's why I really believe that realtors sometimes are worth more than 3%.
Well, yes. I mean,
the good ones are. The good ones are.
I mean, not only do I say that, but I can actually show it. Could you go to the Why Hire Realtor, that first down there, Jack? Why Hire Realtor? To buy the very last one, that one, the next one. This is a house where I helped a client of mine buy. So let's say that you're a buyer and you want to go buy this house, and you say, no, I don't want to hire a realtor, because when I was at the bank, I didn't know anything about real estate. When I was thinking of buying my first property, I was like, no, I don't need a realtor. I'm not going to pay somebody, like I'll just buy it like at the grocery store, And but let's say that you have that mentality that you want to buy this property and you don't want to hire a realtor. If the house is for sale at $230,000 and you're like, you go look at the house and you talk to the realtor and you decide, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna pay you $230. I'll offer you $220. And they accept the offer, and you go and you buy it, and you're like, okay, great. I bought this house, $220,000, $10,000 off. See, I didn't need a realtor. He's like, I didn't have to pay anybody. I got this house $220. But let's just look at the work that I did. Can we scroll down, Jack? Yeah, scroll down to the very bottom on this one. And then right here you can see, further down. And right here you can see further down. Right here you can see that the sales price of this house was where is the sales price? $218? There it goes, $218.
$218, yeah.
So I was able to get them down to $218. And on top of that, I was able to get the seller to contribute another $5,000 to the buyer. Now, keep in mind, this happened after the inspection, and I explained to my clients, hey, it looks like the roof is in bad shape. It's not gonna last you much longer. What you guys want to do? And I explained to them is you'd be very lucky if you get the seller to repair the roof, or replace it, or I'm not sure how much the roof costs. I think they said it's about $10,000 at the time, and they said maybe we can let's ask for 10, and if you get half of that, you'd be lucky, in this market. And so we asked for 10, and they of course said no. And this is where most realtors will okay, they said no, sorry, decide whether you want to buy that house or not. But I actually kept on emailing them, and I say, hey, keep in mind that the roof is this, the roof is that. The agent came back and said, hey, it looks like we're giving up everything. We already gave them $5,000, and we put in an offer for $225 in the original offer. And then sent them another email. It took me about 5 or 6 emails till they finally said, hey, just send us the amendment. But most agents, they're just going to do that one time.
Right.
Yeah, after one time. And I just kept on picking on them till they finally decided to, okay, we'll lower the price. Can you go to the other?
Hold on. Before I go any further, I want to explain it to some of the viewers that see this. If you've got a sales price of $218, and you've got a seller contribution of $5,000, the net price of that is $213,000. Mm-hmm. All right, really, that's really what it's costing the buyer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but here's the other thing as well. If you look at the price of the property, which is
$230,
which is $230. So if you're paying 6%, you understand, from the $230. If you go to the bottom, so first of all, you've got $12,000 off the price. Then you've got an extra $5,000. So then you've got $17,000 off the price. And if you take the 6% for both agents from the $218, there's $12,000. So
more than 12, yeah.
Which is more than what you got from the reduction of the price.
Yeah.
So when people say, well, why should I pay the agent 3%? That in itself is proof that you're better off getting an agent.
Do you know how much my buyers paid me to do this work? I sent them a bill for zero. Just a big zero. Because the seller's agent paid me.
See?
Sounds like a deal to me, man.
Yeah. Can we go to the next one? The Why Hire Realtor 2. This is another example of what I can do. What a good realtor should be able to do. This is my client. He was buying a property where he was trying to buy in Katy, but Katy was really tough. It was just like a seller's market. Houses were selling really quickly, and houses in the 180s were selling for like 200. It was just crazy. It was really hard to get him into get his offer accepted. So we ended up expanding our search to Cyprus. We found this house for $199. And we knew that, I knew that the property probably weren't appraised at $199. But my client took his friend, and his friend said, hey, the way the market is right now, offer $204. So we made an offer for $204. And once again, if you scroll down to the very bottom. Yeah, sales price. So here we go, sales price, $190. Because on the contract we put the offer very competitive. We actually put if the property appraises for $190. Yeah, I'll say if the property appraises for $190, we'll buy it. He's willing to pay the $204. So the property actually came back at $189.
Oh man!
And so the seller, I knew that the property was overpriced from the beginning, but I knew we couldn't send in a realistic offer because he needed a house. And I knew we sent in a realistic offer of $180, $189, somewhere like that. She would not accept it.
Right.
So from the time we put this on the contract to the time that we closed, I was chopping away, bringing down the sales price down from the inspection all the way down to the appraisal. Finally, we got it down to $190. And so he didn't need any cash because he was putting in like a large chunk, so we didn't really need seller contribution, but he was desperate for a house. So was able to get him that house at a good price in a really tough market for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Back in
you'd be hard pressed to find anything over there for that price now.
Yeah,
and that's January. That's January of this year.
Yeah,
exactly.
The thing that's interesting about this, though, Louis, is the fact that the original price on the house you said you was offering was
$199.
You said $204.
Yeah, we offered $204.
Okay, so if you had somebody that decided to make an offer for $204 that wasn't represented by an agent, and they don't know the process, they don't know the 4 times in a contract that you can really negotiate.
Exactly.
To make to get that price down. And, we teach that on our training, and you don't know them 4 times, then they wouldn't have got it for 190.
Oh, definitely.
They would have probably just took the seller's information.
Of course they would.
And then, okay, I want to live in the house because I like the red door and the granite countertops, and they would have gone ahead and
he already said he was desperate, so that guy definitely would have did it.
Oh yeah, he would have ended up paying $204 and closed at $204.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people see when I'm selling a property, I love it when buyers come without their agents or without an agent. I was selling a property up in the north side, and this guy came and he liked the property, and he says, "Hey, would you lower the price?" And I said, "Hey, if this was your property and you were selling it, would you lower the price?" He says, "No." And I just shrugged my hand. He says, "Okay, we'll offer full price."
There
but
you go.
I'm always representing my clients.
So, and also one of your strengths, obviously, you gave an example of follow-up. So, you're saying that follow-up obviously is very, very important, but a lot of agents, they don't follow up.
Right.
We generate leads for agents all the time, and they don't work on their scripts, they don't work on their strategy. And Lewis, we always teach in the office, in the company about, there's 2 strong things that good agents do is they basically know to negotiate, and they know how to design a strategy dependent on what the client wants and how they want to move forward. A lot of clients have got this feeling that the agent should make the decision, but good agents don't make that decision.
Right, exactly.
It's the clients that make that decision.
Exactly.
And then they put it on paper and present it to the seller, and they discuss that strategy, and that's what's important from a client standpoint. So, for you, I feel that you're strong on, your follow-up and everything else, but there's one thing I've noticed about you personally that I really admire. Do you know what the 5-hour rule is?
5-hour rule?
Yeah, very successful
hours?
business people have a 5-hour rule. And the 5-hour rule is the likes of Bill Gates, the guy that owns Alibaba, what's his name? A lot of successful people, okay? They have a 5-hour rule. And what they do is, for an hour a day, they basically specialize on reading or gaining knowledge, gaining, the data. You put a lot of time into data. The amount of times I've been to your office and you've been at the computer and you're working on Facebook, and you're doing strategy, you're working on the data, you're working getting the market, so when you're making offers on the property, you really know what you're talking about because you've got that data to back you up. There's a lot of agents that don't do that part of the business, and they don't do that follow-up. And I feel you do, and you've done a lot of that because whether you like it or not, you are a bit of a techie.
I am a techie. Back in, I would say 95, I didn't know anything about computers. I didn't even know how to turn on a computer to get to Word to type a letter. I mean, I really didn't know. And just by reading this one book, I learned how to repair computers. And ever since then, I started building my own computer just off of reading an A+ book. I never got my A+ license, but I do my own repairs on my computer. I actually built a new computer this year. Gorgeous computer. I don't buy the computers, the HP, the Dells, or whatever. I just build my own. I don't like laptops. I need the desktop. I'm old school.
And when you list a property though, what social media do you do that you feel is a little bit different than other real estate agents?
Well, I use everything. One of the things that makes me different, I believe, is that when I have a property on the market, like this year, the way the market as crazy it is right now, you really don't have to be a good listing agent to get a property sold, because you could do, there's like 10, 15, 20, 30 buyers for every house. So it's almost like...
I disagree with you on that, because I feel that, we had an offer in the gallery here, $475,000, which isn't the sweet point. Well, it wasn't at one time in Houston, but you've got 120 offers. But you better be organised if you've got 120 offers. You have to treat all offers fairly.
No, I understand. I understand that part. But what I'm saying is to get it sold, which means when you really think about it, a lot of the consumers, a lot of the people, the sellers, they're not looking at what their agent is doing. So an agent can pretty much put it on the contract. I mean, put the property on the market, and then here's the offers. pick one or whatever without really giving any advice and get that house sold. But what makes me different is that I actually go through the trouble of getting that property on the market the correct way, using getting a professional photographer out there, getting my properties, my ads. If we go to the AOL ESPN thing right there, ads, yeah, that one. If you see my samples of my work, my ads have came out like an AOL, ESPN, Yahoo.com, MSN. There's extra money that I'm spending. One of the biggest things that I think
you're one of the guys that's above Mr. Trump.
Of course, I was having a good day that day. I think one of the biggest things that happens with listing agents is that if you're lucky, if they do one ad, and then that's it. If my property is still on the market, for like a month or two, I continually to push out ads to put that property on the market. Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. Can we go to another slide that I have?
But a lot of agents won't spend the extra time and investment
if you
and
go
money
to like the big lie,
and they won't to do the extra marketing. They won't do that.
So a lot of agents, when they start, talking to sellers, they say, "Hey, if you hire me, once we put the property in the market, it's gonna go to all these websites, And then if you go down, they'll even tell you, I have a list. I've seen lists of up to 50 things that they have on their list, saying, "Hey, if this is my marketing strategy, this 50 things that I'm gonna do to put the property on the market and get it sold." And that's just a really big lie.
It is.
Because they're not going to do all that.
Right.
And they're not going to, the synchronization, or what's it called?
It's syndicated websites.
Syndicated.
And I'll explain. Syndicated websites are the local MLS have IDX feeds that go through to a lot of these sites, but the goal of some of these sites is not to help people sell properties or promote their properties. The goal of some of them sites on that list, if you go back to that list, Jack, on the top, is what they're trying to do is to sell advertising to apartments, to loan companies. And that's really what they're doing. And the amount of times, and I feel that they're deceiving the general public, I think it needs to be stopped. But what happens is, we've got, because of the level of advertising that we have with Century 21, there's actually more with Century 21 through Reology than this. But what happens is some of the properties go through. We get calls on one property, which is 5767 East Hampton on some of these sites. We sold it 3 years ago.
Yep.
And people call up and they get so frustrated at me or my office because we are advertising this property in a false manner. We even have people, clients that call up this office that say the information on Zillow and Realtor.com is incorrect, and you need to change it because the feeds that go on to the Zillow and the Realtor.com, and some people think that even when they're on Zillow and Realtor.com, when they click on that person that's next to it, they think that that's the listing agent, but it's not. It's just the agent that's paying for advertising in that zip code.
Right.
And I really think it's deceiving to the client. I think it's very, very deceiving. I think, the likes of Zillow and Realtor.com, I think they need to get their act together, to be perfectly honest.
Right. And a lot of the information is incorrect and accurate because I know that I've had 3 listings one time and I had them on the market for like 105, 115 something, 1,000. And Zillow had it for $15,000. He's just like, no, that's incorrect. I don't know how they got that number, but...
And then people call you up and think that you just have the access to go change it.
Yeah, they're accusing me of baiting and switching, and that's not correct. But can we go to this other slide over here? I think when it comes to sellers selling their house, go to the one that has questions. I think that sellers down that one. Sellers, when they start interviewing a listing agent or an agent to sell their property, they always ask the wrong questions, I think. They're always asking, how much can you sell my house for? How much is my house worth? And it's like, I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think what you should be asking is, how much can I sell my house? I mean, what are you going to do to sell my house? Can you go to the next slide? This is what sellers should be asking. What are you going to do to sell my house? And this is where it makes me different from other agents, I believe, is that I'm willing to do everything I can to get a house sold. You know what's horrible about the market and what some agents do is some agents will say, hey, if you cannot come and show this house to your buyer and we have to show it, the listing agent has to show it, we're gonna take off 1% off of your fee. In other words, they're gonna charge you. How is that helping the seller? What that does is discourage people from going and showing that property. That's what it does. And so to me, I'm just when I see that, I'll tell my seller, I'll tell my buyer, hey, let's go find something else because I think this person's gonna be difficult to deal with. So that's one of the things. Those are strategies that listing agents, that agents use that discourage buyers and sellers from looking at the property. One, like I said, they say, hey, if you can't come and show the property to your client and we show it to them, we're gonna deduct 1% off your fee. The other thing is they have specific instructions that say, hey, you need to send it this way, this way, this way. It's like, just make it easy, you know? And then some of them don't use electronic locks on their houses, on the houses they're selling. They use the combos, you know, which is really bad for the sellers because once you give a combo away, anybody can get in.
Absolutely. Right. We've had problems in the past where we've actually called up some of the brokers because what some of the agents have done, I guess they just like to sit down, watch their TV at home, and if you have a numeric lockbox or an alphabetic lockbox and you don't have a super key, then they just give the code out to their buyers and the buyers have gone in. And we've had problems in the past with people leaving doors open. We had one issue where we approached an agent and the agent turned around and says, oh, well, I had to pick my kid up from school, so I just went and opened it and left it. And then the client didn't know how to lock the box.
Yep. I mean, to me, as security, it's like, how are you going to have, you know, your client's property, hundreds of thousands of dollars secured by a combo? It's like, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
The other thing that
you don't know who's going in your house. I mean, they could be a criminal. They could be. I mean, it's endless, really.
Exactly. And actually, you've had, you know, my cousin, when she was looking for a property, this was before I got into the industry, her agent said, oh, here's the combo to the house that they actually purchased, you know, but here's the combo. So the agent wasn't even willing to go show them property.
Yeah, agents like that don't deserve their commission and they shouldn't be in the business. They need to go find another occupation.
Well, I did some research. She's not in the business anymore.
There you go.
There it is.
I wonder why, right?
You just backed up my point. I've got a quick question for you, Lewis, and I've also got one for you as well, James. A lot of clients have got this thing about, well, I only want to sign a listing for 90 days. And we all know we tried to do a listing for 6 months or 12 months. Well, I only want to sign a listing for 90 days. I personally feel the problem with that is that why should you invest money doing all this additional work?
Exactly.
If they're only willing to commit to you for 90 days? Because there's automatic things that go on with, you know, with putting it in HAR that they do. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of agents out there, and this is what the clients really need to understand. This is why some agents are worth more than 3%. But all they do is put a sign in the yard and put it in the MLS and just sit at home and watch TV and forget about it. And, you know, at Olympian, we believe that we aim for an Olympian standard, you know, to represent our clients and fight for our clients and negotiate for our clients and strategize for our clients and help them come up with a strategy. And then we put forward how they want to move forward. It's their decision. And then if you put $3,000 into a listing to do all the extra advertising that you do, how do you feel about, what do you think, James? What do you think about a 90-day listing?
I mean, honestly, I think it's uncommon. I mean, why it might take you 90 days to get some good traction.
Right, but there's agents out there that do 90-day listings.
Right, yeah. I mean,
I
don't
think it's in the client's interest to do that. They might think it's a better deal.
Right.
I know it's not a good idea, because once that property expires, people are gonna say, "Oh, there's something wrong with that property."
Exactly.
And it's gonna be much harder to sell. Like this house that I had for sale in Wood Forest area, the agent that had it before me, he was a friend of the family, but he had a full-time job, he had a career, and he just got his license. So they let him list the property. It sat there for a year. It sat there for a year, and then their friends said, "Call Lewis, he'll get it sold." So they called me, go look at the house. It's a nice house, but unfortunately, because they have been on the market for so long, it was really stigmatized, kind of. The first thing people called me was like, "Hey, why was this property on the market for a year? There's something wrong with it." And so I had to explain to everybody, it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with the house. They just, had a part-time agent doing the work and just couldn't get it done.
Right.
Because he was working full-time, and he didn't have time to answer the phones. He didn't have time to pay attention. The marketing that he did, the pictures were horrible. The 3D thing that he did, it was like
but the numbers show the best time to sell a house is within the first 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the mistake is to me that clients make when they say, all I'm willing to do is to sign a 90-day listing agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get an agent in that just puts the sign in the yard, put it in the MLS,
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't sell because the agent doesn't do the additional advertising and investing to push that listing above the others.
Right.
And then smart agents like you come along, and what do? You negotiate it down, and you use all the reasons that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I feel that somebody's more committed and they're going to sign a 6-month contract, my goal is to get it sold as quick as I can.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, it makes me concerned because I could put one of our agents, I mean, what she does, and she's one of our top agents, Natalie Sweeney, what she does is, she does staging for the houses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if she has a property that needs staging, she has the means to go ahead and do that. But why should she even do that if it doesn't sell? A lot of sellers obviously want it. They may overprice the house.
Sure. That's usually what they do. But I always say that. See, the thing that makes me different, I think, is that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the house sold. Which
we've seen in the past.
I always tell my sellers, is like, hey, I'm not here to market your property, because that's not yes, I'm going to do that, but that's not my number one goal. My number one goal is to get the house sold, and I'm going to do the marketing to get that done. One of the things that I promise my client is that I'm going to get a professional photographer. I'm going to get virtual 3D and their virtual tour. That takes a lot of money to get that.
Tell people about the Matterport that you do.
The Matterport is just simply a walkthrough, a 3D camera. It's a very expensive camera. It's about $4,000, and it creates a 3D map of your house. And it's pretty much like you're walking through the house. It's they say the stats are that the listing agents that spend money on getting Matterport services done on a house actually end up selling faster and for more money than the regular listings. That's one of the things that I promise my clients, that I'm going to get.
And you do that for free for your clients,
yes,
correct?
Every listing I get has that.
You have your own Matterport, so you vested in it.
It doesn't matter the price that property. I had a $110,000 listing, and I went and did a Matterport on it, $110,000.
I'm sure that comes in handy, right? Especially during the time of COVID right now. People don't have to actually go out to actually get a walkthrough of the house.
Exactly.
It's way different than just a picture.
And what's so sad is I see properties $500,000, $400,000, $300,000. I've seen $700,000 houses that they don't have that. They have just the basic pictures, and it's just a horrible service.
Well,
and it really, one of the things that the reason that I do what I do is not only to represent my client's best interest, but it's because we have such a bad reputation, misconception about, don't hire realtors.
Are you talking about realtors and not Olympian?
That they don't do nothing, so that's why I want to hire,
Just in general, right?
I just want to hire. I don't want to hire a realtor because they don't do anything. Well, because there's so many bad agents out there. But the true ones, the ones that we do, the work. It
doesn't reflect on the agents that do the work. Is really what you're saying. Well, we've let agents go here that have gone out there and done photos and taken the phone and basically taken their photos for a property on an iPhone.
Right, and the reason,
as an owner, I've let them go. I've said, look, you're not up to the quality. You need to redo the photos. And some of them have got real upset about it.
Yeah, I've actually went out. I had a 19th.
Everybody can't stop. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm not. That's an interesting question, but I don't know. There's not that many. What would you say?
If I would say less than 10% because it's such an investment in getting the Matterport. Now you might find someone that has one that you can go and do, but it's an extra expense on top of your still photos that you got to do. So
the question.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody read it.
So we have a question from Robert Johnson. He said, Luis, any idea what percentage listings are using Matterport these days? It would be interesting to see the data, especially the numbers on the listings about 500K. Well, I haven't really done any research as to, looking at all the MLS listings and then breaking down which ones have Matterport and which ones do not. But, I can definitely tell you that there are listings in the 500 plus range that do not have Matterport. And, that's such a shame for the sellers because it really is a great service.
I think at the moment, though, the percentage of properties that have Matterport, I believe, is actually pretty low. But I think the good agents in the industry that have the Matterport themselves that do it really know what they're doing. Because there's some professional photographers out there that really don't know how to take, photographs for a property.
Right.
We've had a so-called professional photographer take photos of a house, and he took every single room with a fisheye lens. And that's like looking at a goldfish in a bowl.
Right.
And it was just terrible. And that was actually the agent that we let go because, first of all, she took the photos with an iPhone. Then she got a professional photographer that was a friend of hers that took it with a fisheye lens, and I told her that just wasn't acceptable. By that time, he was completely upset with me because I tell all my agents I work for them, but the truth of the matter is she's not reflecting the company and reflecting the quality of the work that we do, and she couldn't accept that.
Yeah, the standards that's set forth. There's even some. I mean, pictures. I think if you got a $500,000 home, a Matterport, that's just kind of one of those things. It should just be a part of it. It looks good. Even a drone photo, something to show the lines of that property.
But that's what good real estate marketing is you being different than the next guy.
Yeah, you got to do that.
I can tell you that I had a house that was for sale, for selling a house in Humble, and my regular photographer wasn't available, so got another recommended photographer, strongly recommended, went out there, took pictures of the property, and they were horrible. They were so horrible. And I apologized to my client. I said, hey, look, I'm sorry for these pictures. I'm getting another photographer to come out there. So I spent double the money to make sure that I get great pictures, get a professional photographer out there for that property. That's the standards that I set for myself, that we need to do things right. The other thing is I had a house, $90,000 house for sale. And it was one of those that needs improvements, it's for an investor. I was hoping we could get a end buyer into it, but unfortunately, I was getting a lot of offers from investors. But when I took pictures, I noticed that even though the floors were in good condition, they were scratched and there was some dirt there, so they didn't look great. So I went back into that house the next day. We're talking about a hot summer day. It's an older house, so there's no AC, and I mopped all the floors and then retook those pictures because that's how I'm obsessed with getting the job done right. So to people who say that, hey, realtors, don't hire a realtor, this, that. It's like you have the experience probably because you've been hiring the wrong realtors, the wrong agents. The other thing is, so I promise my clients that I'm going to do my best to get that property, the professional photographer, Matterport, and one of the things that I always promise them is that I'm going to defend their price. You want to sell your house for $20K above what the market thinks it is? Fine, I'll put it on the market, and when people call me, they say, hey, where'd you get that price? Especially your agents will call you, where'd you get that price? Don't you know it's overpriced, this, that, and the other? I tell them, it's like, what are you talking about? Have you seen the house? This is an incredible house. Of course it's worth this, of course it's worth this. Whereas I've seen other agents say, yeah, I know, I'm just waiting for the sellers to come to the census so we can lower the price. Or they put on the contract, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to have to start dropping the price $1,000 a week. It's like, I feel sorry for sellers like that because, obviously the listing agent's not doing their best to get their price that they want, or don't you want someone, if you're trying to sell a property, don't you want the best chance at getting that price, And that's what I offer.
And what sort of problems have you got from some of your clients on the Zillow Zestimate and all the values that they give from Realtor.com?
I completely educate my clients about what that is, what Zillow is, and I actually show them. I pull up a report. I show them the other properties that have sold within that block, half a mile. I try to keep it within that half a mile, that same subdivision. There's less sales. We go out a little bit more, but I show them and I send them the report after they sign with me because I don't give. I'm sorry. I have to protect my time. But once they see that, I say, here's where I think your property value is. How much would you like to sell it for? You let me know, but they make the ultimate
pick
decision.
Your price, pick your competition.
Right.
But do you think the Zestimate is an accurate system?
Of course not.
I've never found it accurate at all.
Not at all.
No, I mean there's stories about actually the CEO not being able to get the price, or that the price was wrong that they had on Zillow, and so no, of course it's not accurate. Plus that price does not take into account the market activity at that moment. So right now, I would think that all those estimates are wrong.
Well, that's you can actually sign up and claim a property.
Exactly.
And update the information yourself. So that in itself makes it not, information that you can, rely on.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's, I'll sign it and claim my own house because I don't want anybody else doing it. Yeah.
But one of the other things that I promise my clients is that I'm going to show that property to whoever calls me that wants to look at the property. One of the things that I notice when someone calls an agent, or when I call an agent about a property, the first thing they ask is, do you have an agent? And if you tell them you do, but you want to look at the property, they'll tell you, call your agent and set an appointment. It's like, I don't do that. Someone calls me, want to look at one of the properties I'm selling. Hey, I could be there in 45 minutes. I can be there in half an hour. I don't care if they have an agent or not. I'm going to show that property, especially if it's a vacant property. Yeah. I'm going to go out there and show it as often as possible. And that's one of the promises that I make my clients.
And how about appraisal district values? A lot of clients don't understand that has nothing to do with market value.
Right. The appraisal value is actually, you want to keep that low because that's what the county is base the property tax they charge you is based on that appraisal price that they give you, appraisal value. So you want that low, but that is not necessarily the market price. The market price is usually a little bit higher or more so. And the thing about that appraisal value is that is what a lot of wholesalers will use to, I would say, lowball sellers, because they'll say, hey, look, the county has your property appraised at $100,000, but it needs all this work. We'll give you 70. Whereas if you look at the actual market value of that property, it may be $130,000, $150,000. So watch out for that.
And Louis, what's your worst experience that you've ever had with a seller? Blame me. You blame me all the time. Come on. Bring it to the table. Give it me.
Well, is that seller? You had that seller call you. She was an engineer. So typically, I don't know why the people that have that mathematical background or that engineering background seem to be really hard to deal with
Well,
sometimes.
with the client that you were talking about, she called me up as the broker owner of the business, said, I want the best agent that you have. So, of course, I know you've worked in that area and you took it, and then I'm starting to hide under a shell.
No, I mean, she had a beautiful house, and just like all my clients, once they sign up for my services, I go up and beyond everything, to get that property sold. So she was actually living in Corpus at the time. So she needed some electrical work done. So I went over there, let the electrician in. We had an offer come in, and during the visit, they realized that I guess the potential buyer went up into the attic, and he noticed that there was a hole up there for one of the vents was not on their property. So when I found out, I went back over to that property. I covered that hole up to make sure, because it was going to be raining that day. And then the next day or the day after, went back to that property to let the roofer in to get that property that repaired. So I'm going to the house multiple times. Then went to taking the pictures. The seller was in the middle of the move, so she had boxes everywhere. So when I went, they had the photographer go out there. I went and I moved those boxes into the garage so those pictures could come out, immaculate, spectacular. And in spite of doing all this, when we finally got an offer, the lady got bothered because the buyer was asking for a $500 home warranty plan, which is no big deal. I mean, it's nothing. But she was adamant that when she was selling, she did not have to pay for that. When she bought the property, she didn't have to. No one bought that for her, so she wasn't going to pay for it. So, and she kind of ruined the deal, because once she started getting upset about that and being petty, the buyer became offended, and so we didn't sell the property. Later on, the property expired. She called me back and said, "Hey, let's put it on the market again." I said, "Sure, okay." And I sent her the listing agreement, but she changed the listing agreement date from 6 months to that 90 days. And I told her, look, I already told you I don't do short-term contracts. I'm not a discount broker. I offer full service, and unfortunately, this is my fee. So she didn't have a problem with the fee, but she just had a problem with the time. She wanted me to do it in 90 days. It was like, I can't invest that much money in 90 days, especially when, we know you're going to be difficult when we get an offer in.
Well, she wants you to give her a full commitment, but she didn't want to give you hers.
Exactly.
Right. And, discount brokers give a discount service, regardless of what you say. They just can't spend the additional money to put in to really get ahead of the Realtor.com and the Zillows, to get it into a position where your property is coming up. Because what happens is, with a lot of these tech companies now, they're specifically pushing different listings to generate leads. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it to help somebody sell a property. They're doing it to push advertising and so they can even sell the people that click on Zillow and Realtor.com, and they're selling them leads to Realtor.
Right.
So they're not getting quality realtors. What they're actually getting is realtors that can't generate their own business,
right.
That are buying the leads because that's how they do.
For the people that understand what leads are people who go to all these websites and sign up. They sell your information to realtors. That way, when you sign up and you ask for information on a house, all of a sudden you got like 10 realtors calling you, asking you, do you need services and that? Because your information was just sold.
And some of the listings have already sold.
Exactly.
Well, how do you? For some of these sellers, how quickly do you think things can go badly? I mean, have you got any experiences of that?
Well, not me personally, because I'm great, but
But a lot of sellers call you up and they say, I found out about I've got a referral for you, Lewis, and we always ask, what went. Obviously, you've got to find out where they are, and so you can find out. You don't want to repeat the same problem, which I'm sure you wouldn't. But
right. Typically, I've had went in and house in Kingwood. went in with my listing presentation. My presentation is amazing. And so I went there and I told them, it's like, hey, hire me. They didn't. They hired someone else, probably because there was another office, real estate office, probably about half a mile away. So they hired someone from there. 6 months later, they called me and say, hey, we couldn't get the property, so can you come back? So I went back, and they pretty much told me it's like the agent that they hired just wasn't doing the work. And one of the things that they were upset was that the entryway was dirty, and there was cobwebs, the entryway was dirty, and they said it didn't make a great impression when people come look at the house and their sleeves and stuff on the entryway inside the house. When I went and I took over the listing, I went and of course I swept up and I said I just need a broom or something here to make sure that I can clean up after a couple of visits. When I see people in the house, I can come by and just sweep up or something, make sure it always looks decent. I took all the cobwebs around the outside of the house, to make so it didn't look like a haunted house, and I ended up vacuuming the entire house because you could see all the footprints everywhere, and it's like it almost looked like 1,000 people have visited the house, but the house was still on the market. So it's like, why 1,000 people look at the house and no one's bought it? There must be something wrong with the house. So I went over there and vacuumed the house. So that's the type of service that I offer. So that's one of them where things can go wrong. You don't hire the correct agent. First of all, the house may not sell. The other one is I was representing a buyer in Pasadena. The appraisal came in low, and I told the buyers like, "Hey, looking at all the other houses, that list price, the price they're selling the house for, that's a fair market. That's a fair price." So we went and offered the $120 for that property. Appraisal came in at 106. So I asked her to send me the appraisal. I explained to her, it's like, hey, look, the appraiser messed up here. He put a house, he used a house at a comparable that has sold in 2 days. It was originally listed for like $95,000. I called both agents, the buyer's agent, and I called the listing agents. And I called the listing agent and say, hey, can you tell me more about this house? Why did it sell so fast in that market? It wasn't the seller's market. So why did it sell so fast? Was it sold to a family member? They said, no, someone else bought it, but the property did have problems with the foundation and electrical. Oh, okay. So I called the buyer's agent and I said, hey, can you tell me more about the property? What happened? Why did it sell so fast? Or why did it sell low? And it said, well, we had it on the contract for 95. After the inspection, we got it down to 87 because it's horrible. It's in horrible condition. There's electrical issues, there's foundation issues, and then the remodel that was done, it was really bad. I said, but the pictures look good. I said, yes, the pictures look good, but it's a horrible remodel. They did a horrible work. We were hoping that the appraisal would come in lower so we can lower that price. But it didn't. The appraisal came in right at 87. I asked both agents, did the appraiser call you? Because I've had appraisers call me about houses I sold a year ago asking the details. It's like, what are the details of the sale? And it says, both of them said, no, the appraiser did not call me. So how is this appraiser going to use a house that sold in 2 days that had all these issues? This house is obviously not a good comparable for the house that we're buying. So once I explained that to my buyer, she's like, that makes a lot of sense. I still want to buy this house at 120. I said, well, don't worry about that. I'm going to do my best to get that price down. So I called the other agent. I say, hey, the appraisal came in low. Came in at 106. She goes, oh, can you send me the appraisal report? Well, I know that if I send her the report, she's going to see the same mistake I did, right? So I said, oh, I don't have it. Let me get it from my client and let me see what I can do. And I just called her the next day. It's like, hey, what's your seller willing to do? She goes, we're willing to go down to 110. I say my client $10K.
Wow. And how about you, James? What problems are you getting with appraisal, especially with sort of the market going up and prices increasing?
And
nightmares.
That is to put it lightly. It's taking forever to get them done, for one. And then when they do come in, you got the appraiser who's on one hand, they're there to do a job, an opinion of value. Mm-hmm. No one wants to agree with the opinion when you come back and it's not exactly what the contract says. But so he's kind of forced in a corner And then, of course, everybody wants to say, well, your appraiser, well, he doesn't work for us.
Right.
You know, he works for himself. We just have to get an appraisal opinion on the property. So it's been a bit of a nightmare to deal with him. The values are coming in low because everybody's overbidding for things just so they can get properties.
And explain to us about, you have an appraisal, but then you have a second opinion appraisal. In what instances do you?
No, that's not very common. Second appraisals aren't very common unless there's some. Let's say an investor buys a property and then they do a bunch of repairs to it and it increases over 100% of the value that they acquired it for. Then there may be a call for a second opinion on the appraisal. That's not very common that happens.
Can the same appraiser do it, or is it always a different appraisal?
No, the second appraisal is for that purpose, to get a second opinion. Basically, it's someone else doing it. But you're not seeing so much of that as you are with people just disputing the fact that the value's there.
And why is there such a delay in the appraisers? Is it because they haven't got enough appraisers to keep up with demand?
That is it. It's very difficult to become an appraiser. They make it very difficult. You have to do like a 2 or 3 year apprenticeship. And a lot of guys aren't willing to do that. So you've got some of the same guys that I've worked with 20 years ago that are still doing appraisals.
Wow. But the same exactly with adjusters, because when we had the freeze in Texas, we do HOA management for 7 HOAs. And the weekend I met an adjuster over there. We had water leaks at 82 units out of 224 at one complex. It's a fairly old complex, and the adjuster was saying they've got the same problem with adjusters.
Yeah, and the deal with adjusters, they kind of come, whenever there's a disaster. Appraisers have been here. They just have not loosened those guidelines on how to allow that, to get more people in there. And I understand you don't want it to be too easy, because I think it's way too easy to become a realtor, honestly. But the appraisal piece of it, I think it's very important that you have someone that knows what they're doing. And a lot of folks aren't willing to take that extra stride to do it. So you got the same crop of guys that are kind of doing it. And those that do get into doing it, it's a little bit different, but it's good.
We've got a comment actually from Marilyn Holly, who's our area ambassador. And I had actually texted during the podcast and sort of asked her to join. And hi, Marilyn. She's one of my superstars. She does such a good job for Century 21. She's one of my superstars, and her husband's an appraiser. He was saying, Stephen, it's hard to be an appraiser, and the current population are getting older, and no new ones are entering the business. James, is that what you just said? But I'm glad if Century 21 will let Marilyn come on, we'd love to get her on the table, invited to the table. And she's also got, thank you, James, for realizing that buyers are offering more than the asking price and the effect has on the appraised value. Yeah, and as agents, we sort of give appraisers a hard time, don't we, Louis?
Well, I do, because yes, they do take a lot more training, right? I mean, they take a lot more training than realtors do, right?
They do, absolutely.
It's very strict to become an appraiser.
It is.
And even with all that training, they come up and give you a comp, that's a house that's sold in 2 days, that has all these problems. They want to say, oh yeah, this is a comparable to the one that you're buying over here that's completely in good condition. It's like, that's not right, so.
And the thing as well, they've increased the hours, I believe, haven't they, for appraisers? If Marilyn can answer us on the chat, I think that'd be nice. But they've increased the hours. I don't know when. I thought it was recently, but they've increased the hours for training. And it is more expensive to be an appraiser, to get that. It is expensive to become an appraiser?
Right, yeah. The classes it's more than what it is for a realtor. Like James said, I think it really is too easy to be a realtor.
Right.
To get your license,
Yeah, it is definitely. And again, what people miss is that it's an opinion of value. Right. It's this person's opinion of value. And years ago, before the whole credit crunch, these guys were getting in trouble because some of them were dirty and they were in cahoots with over appraising these properties and all this. So now you're very cautious. We can't even have any contact with them. We have to have our communication go through an appraisal management company.
Yeah, and here we go.
And
Mary just said on the chat, here you go. Yes, they have. Plus, you have to have a college degree.
Yes, we have to go through an appraisal management company for communication.
Right.
So otherwise, they have to list that they've spoken to a lender, or they have to show that, because the coercion of the trying to persuade them on value, they're trying to keep that down, which was rampant back then.
And you were talking about how things can go wrong for the seller. I do have an experience with that. I was helping a person buy an humble. The listing agent, the representative seller, she just was hard to communicate with. When it came down to the appraisal, to get the appraisal done, the appraiser called her. And she said, "Oh yeah, the appraisals have already been done." So the appraiser calls me and tells me, "It's like, hey, has the appraisal been done?" I says, "No, it hasn't. It's like, I'm just having such a hard time with this agent. She don't know what she's doing. We have a problem with the property. The condition is horrible." And the appraiser says, "Really? Send me the inspection report." "Oh yeah, here you go." Bam. Talking about saving my client some money, because the listing agent didn't know what was going on. I should never have been allowed to talk to that, to influence.
Yeah, but that also takes us on to a problem with some sellers who insist on being at the property when the other agent's viewing the property.
Right.
And what they don't seem to realize is that if they're a slick agent and experienced, we ask questions about the property, and some of the stuff they tell us is like, "Well, thank you very much. You've just got $5,000 and you've just saved my client $5,000 because now I know."
I had
even if it goes into contract and it's executed, then I can pop all the information that I know when we talk about negotiating it down and getting a strategy. It doesn't have to be. We don't have to. If the seller turns around and says, "Oh well, yeah, we had a water leak on this room at such and such a time." Yeah, we make an offer on the property. If it's not on the seller's disclosure, if I'm an experienced agent, then during the option time, I'm going to go at them.
I actually was selling a property in South Houston over there by our office in 288. And once again, got a buyer came in without his agent. I had multiple offer situation, and I told him, don't put an offer in unless you're serious, because we have multiple offers. Don't put an offer in. I was being pretty aggressive at this time. I'm actually not being aggressive right now, but I was like, don't think about putting an offer in unless you're actually going to buy a house. Don't think you're going to do an inspection and trying to lowball us after the inspection. I says, don't do it, because you're going to be wasting your money.
And time, right?
And time. And he actually sent us an offer over list price. And ended up selling that property for $5,000 over list price. 2 years later, he sold that property. Fortunately, he didn't call me. But he ended up selling that property for the same price. Put it on the market. So I was like, did a good job.
Wow.
He should have came with his agent, because his agent wouldn't, of course, I wouldn't be there to bully him and let him give me that, pay me that price. But.
Right. And then let's just move on. There's some listing agents, James, that are nervous about taking lenders from other states. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, they are, and they should be, because you want to be sure that you have that you get the deal done. There's different states have different ways that loans are closed. Some close in title companies, some close with attorneys.
I personally have had a bad experience with a loan officer from California trying to close a deal in Texas, because over there they have escrow and over here we have title companies, and it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, some different fees will show up at times if you don't know the state specific fees or what you can charge. Some fees you can call it a certain thing. To other states you got to call it something else. So it's key to know what those things are, and if you don't know, you can be in some trouble.
The other thing is that I actually had a buyer from California wanting to buy here in Texas, and I told her, hey, it's a very competitive market right now, but you may want to think about getting a local lender because as a listing agent, people are not going to really want to do business with an outside lender, especially.
Yeah, and some banks have got this central lending system.
She did not listen to me. The listing agent called me when we put an offer on a property, and he says, "Hey, we like your client's offer, but can she get a local lender?" She refused. She actually had her lender call the listing agent, try to persuade him to use her. And like me, he said, yeah, sure. And then it's like, let's go with this other deal, because you want to make sure you represent your seller's best interest and get that property closed, and can't take a risk on someone that may not know the rules,
We've had clients that have actually taken a lower offer because they've worked with a lender that they know that can get the deal done, like James. And they've actually gone with a lower offer because they know they're not wasting nobody's time and they can go ahead and get that deal closed.
Yeah.
Because the longer it goes through the contract process, then the more pressure it puts on the seller, especially in this market when they've got to find another house. This is, at the moment, we're in a position which is all the way through America. I mean, it's not specific to Houston.
Right.
In some cities, it's worse than others. And so we've had instances the last 3 months where we sold a house in, I believe it was North Houston. I believe it was in the Woodlands area. We sold the house. They were moving to North Carolina, and they've extended it twice now, and they can't find a house in North Carolina.
Yeah. It's everywhere right now.
And so the pressure's on the seller to move out, so it's just, James calls it the domino effect.
Yes.
And that's really what we're in at the moment is, a domino effect. And what do you think about some of the banks that have a central lending system? I personally can't stand it, James, because you never speak to the same person twice.
Well, I think that's the biggest. It's really the customer experience is a little different. When you're dealing with someone that you deal with one-on-one, you kind of have a conversation. You don't have to repeat a whole bunch of stuff all over again. There's nothing more frustrating.
Repeat the same story over and over.
Oh my goodness! They transfer in, and you got to say the same thing. It's like, oh my, there's no notes in the system.
Right,
what I talked about.
I hate that.
Yeah, so it's key to be able to have someone that you can kind of one-on-one, but they have these. Sometimes they call them groups or pods or whatever that they kind of work the deal. Not knocking any of it, but it can be frustrating to a customer because somebody will take the application, somebody will input it, into the system for the processing, and then the processing does this, and you're talking to all these different people,
right?
And you can't really kind of line it all up.
It's been very frustrating for the clients, especially first-time home buyers, where they don't know the process and they're going through the whole process. And then they've decided to work with one of the banks where they've gone in there, they've spoken to the personal banker, and then they're given a reference number and they said, well, okay, for further questions, call this 800 number and just pull up the reference and they'll pull up your file. And then to look at the actual operational challenges to that is, well, okay, fax your docs to, this, well, okay, but we need more docs on your W-2s, or we need, the fifth page of your tax return, missed out. So can you fax it again? And it just becomes so convoluted and so complicated. I just don't think it's a good experience for a first-time home buyer to go through that. Right. And sometimes, like you said with the builder, Lewis, people think that we're making money off James or whatever, but we're not. I mean, it's as simple as that. We are not. But we're doing it because we use James, because James, if
can get it closed,
he gets it closed, and at the same time, if I refer somebody as something, I'm putting my trust in the likes of James or the likes of Lewis. Just like that client called up, like I told you about, wants to sell a house in spring and gave you nothing but headaches. But that's just the way it is. I mean, if you can't take on the headaches, then perhaps you're in the wrong business. Exactly. And I know you never complained about it, but I felt bad about it, to be perfectly honest, Lewis. But I know you never complained.
That was a good experience. I'm thinking actually calling her, seeing if she wants to sell her house again.
Because it's still not sold.
It's still not sold, right? That's it. That's the interesting part about the business is that you have all these sellers thinking that it's easy to sell, or why hire an agent? I was actually talking to a seller trying to sell a lot over here by the Greater Heights area, right off of 610. And I told him, I was like, hey, I could sell your house. I could sell your property. How much you're looking to sell it for? And he gave me a number. And I looked around. And I was like, yep, I can get that. You know, the market was there. The numbers were there. It made sense. And I told him, hire me. I can get it sold for you. He didn't hire me that year. Kept on calling him throughout the next 4 years. He would never hire me. He never hired me. He finally sold it after 4 years. And I called him back and I said, hey, you know, congratulations, you got your deal sold, you know, but I know that you didn't want to pay me, and that's the reason why you didn't hire me. You wanted to save that money, but you're paying about $10,000 every year in property taxes. Took you 4 years, that's $40,000, you know, that you ended up paying. You know, so you're still gonna pay. You could have paid an agent. You could have got it sold faster within that first year, and imagine what the opportunities you could have had that year. Or you know, you paid the government. You know, either way, you paid.
But there's a holding cost on the property.
There is a holding cost, and for him, it was like $40,000 property taxes.
And that. Especially, you know, some sellers are really motivated to sell their property in December. Why is that? Because property taxes are due December 31st. So if you've got an agent that really hasn't got a strategy, that's not trained, that knows that, but an agent that really knows that, that they're using that,
right? So
a buyer can get a better deal.
Yeah, and it does make a difference, you know, what the listing agent does, you know, because I have a great story about a property in North Houston. Could you put it on that bad MLS pictures? That bad photo one, or that one, the one on top, that one. So this is a house that my clients were looking for a house in this price range. I guess it's not in this price range, and I sent them this house along with others to, you know, so they could look at it, and they saw it on their computer, and they did not want to go see this house. They just glossed over it.
Why didn't they want to see the house?
Keep them going down because the pictures are. So sorry, the pictures are different. These are pictures that the listing agent took, and as you can see, it doesn't really tell you anything about the house.
It looks a bit scruffy, to be perfectly honest. I mean,
those cell phone pics.
Yeah, those are cell phone pics.
Wow, I like that room. Look, that's a foundation problem there.
It's like a fun house at the carnival.
So they saw this.
I've never seen a foundation problem that much, Lewis.
So they saw these pictures, and of course they just like, okay, no, we didn't like the house. But I knew this area, and I knew that house would be in a certain condition because I knew that area. So I took them to see another house, and then I took them to see this one. When we got there, they absolutely loved the house. They're like, oh, we like this house. We want to put an offer on this house. And then they told me, we saw this house on the internet, but we didn't like it. You know, this house had been on the market for 57 days before we got it. So it could have been sold a lot faster, but the agent just took bad pictures, bad angles. You can't see anything about the property. And so it was just bad service. If I hadn't come along, that property would still be sitting there. And on top of that, it was listed for about $5,000 less than what it should have been. And so it does make a difference what an agent does. You know, because people are looking at those pictures, and if you don't have great pictures to attract, you know, the buyers, it's going to take a long time to get it sold. You know, but that was actually a beautiful house. You can't tell from the pictures, but that was actually a beautiful house.
So the photos from the original agent, well, this is agent,
you're right.
So they're not getting as much interest in the property, basically, because of the photos.
Exactly.
So they're not getting, the ideal situation is to get himself into an auction situation. And that's what a good listed agent does. We've spoke about that, you know, earlier on in the podcast, which is basically what they're trying to do is to bring as many people as they can, you know, to work at pushing up.
And of course there was no ads or anything of any kind on this. You know, it was just listed on the MLS. And you know, ads are important. You know, people say, yeah, I've had people tell me, it's like, oh, you're talking about Facebook and LinkedIn and this and that and the other, but that doesn't really, does that really help sell a house? And it does. I actually have that Facebook stats. Can you go to the Facebook stats? Facebook stats, the bottom one, that one, yeah. 65%, of home buyers say they're influenced by their online friends' post about the homes they're buying, where they're buying, things like that. So it does make a difference when, for listing agents to offer this service to put the properties on social media, not only Facebook, but Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, everywhere, and a lot of these platforms are free. So why wouldn't you put it up there? And then if you go down, you can actually see that the amount of time people spend on their social media on their phones, about an hour and 15 minutes on social media every day. 168 million people use Facebook every day. 217 million Americans access Facebook every month on mobile. I mean, these are huge stats. And
huge.
Yeah,
that's just America.
Yeah,
right.
that's just yeah.
Which brings us on to
international buyers.
We are getting a lot of international buyers at the moment. We're getting from Canada. We're getting from South America. I love the South American buyers. Please don't build the wall, because they're cash buyers. A lot of them are cash buyers that want to come in.
Yeah, I have one coming in. Should be here on May 8th. We're going to go look at
Is she a cash buyer?
Cash buyer.
There you go. See, there you go. We've had a lot of Chinese buyers. What else have we had? Thai buyers. I mean, we manage a lot of properties for people in, China and different things, and it's all cash.
Yeah, so
it is all cash.
So mobile ads
cash
do
is
matter.
king.
The mobile ads do matter, So if your agent is selling your property and they're not utilizing these tools, especially when they're free, you should really hire a good agent.
Yeah, well, people basically, I think what it boils down to is people. It's on their phone now. I mean, here we've got James on his phone. I'm on my phone. I mean, we're doing the podcast, and we're still sort of communicating with some of the people.
The shop doesn't close, baby.
There you go.
So here's some more stats. So social media does matter. All I can say, and so that's why I used it. I've always used it, and I offer it. All my listings. I put maybe 20 ads or more throughout Facebook, LinkedIn.
But it's not just doing the social media, it's a case of the follow-up and the consistency.
Right, when someone asks...
Of continually using that social media. So, and you can do a lot of research.
Right.
Good agents do research even on the buyers.
Exactly.
And on the sellers. You can do so much research.
And on that agent that you're about to, be working on a transaction with, go look up that agent, see how long have they been in the business,
Right.
And you can find a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So to me, this is very important. So I work.
No, you do a good job, Willis, and I Lewis, and I just want to sort of, thank
Willis.
you. Willis. What was that? Was that different strokes?
It was different strokes.
Different strokes.
Hey, you're dating yourself a little bit there. I just realized y'all got the same haircut, man.
What are you talking about, Willis?
What?
Hey, that's what we should do. Is say, what are you talking about, Lewis? There you go. But no, that definitely is giving my age away. But anyway, I just want to sort of let everybody know that if you need to know more about Luis, you can go to @HTown Realtor, or your tagline, which I love personally. I think your tagline is really good.
I'm your Texas Realtor. You're looking to sell or buy. I'm your guy. And so give me a call. You have any questions about real estate? You're thinking about buying or selling. If you want an exceptional agent, someone who's aggressive, who's going to negotiate hard for you, going to go above and beyond, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to help out. I'm here. It's all about service, and with my banking background, I can assure you you'll get a professional service every time.
Yeah, and go find him on social media. There you go, and then you can actually sample Lewis's work.
There you go.
There you go. Go find him on social media. @HTown Realtor, or put Luis Medina, and I'm sure you'll find him. Then of course we've got my number one loan guy. He's at League Group Loans.
Yes.
So go find Lewis and go find James on social media. And if you need to know more about our brokerage, we've actually got, if you want to find more about the brokerage, you can go to @Century21TX. If you want to find more about me, it's @StephenGWilliams.C21. And we'd love to, hook up with everybody. Let's go ahead and share information, ideas, and comments, and get involved with the podcast. Please go ahead and like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We will actually be on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And we've got Dawn Killian, who's one of our other agents. She's high-producing agents, and she'll be on tomorrow. So, feel free to come and join us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. But thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your time. Go live the American dream. And if you're not in Texas, you're not here quick enough. Hurry up and get here. So there you go. So it's, let's go live the dream. And bye for now, guys. And thanks for logging on.